at last, brother, said Yves. I believe, yes, I really believe she is coming at last. I look over his shoulder, and I see a back view of a little doll. The finishing touches to those who toilette are being put in the solitary street. A last maternal glance is given. The enormous bow of the sash, the folds of the waist, her dress of pearly gray silk, her obi of mauve satin, a sprig of silver flowers trembles in her black hair. A parting ray of sunlight touches the little figure. 5 or 6 persons accompany her. Yes, it is undoubtedly Mademoiselle Jasmine. They are bringing me my fiancé. Heavens, why, I know her already. Long before setting foot in Japan, I had met her on every fan, on every teacup, with her silly air, her puffy little face, her tiny eyes, mere gimlet holes above those expanses of impossible pink and white cheeks. She is young, but that is all I can say in her favor. She is even so young that I should almost scruple to accept her. The wish to laugh leaves me suddenly, and instead a profound chill seizes my heart. What? Share even an hour of my life with that little doll? Never. The next question is, how do I get rid of her? Nevertheless, my discomfited air does not escape my visitors. Monsieur Kanguro anxiously inquires, how do you like her? And I reply in a low voice, but with great resolution, not at all. I won't have that one. Never. I feel really almost sorry for them. The fact is that for women who, not to put too fine a point upon it, have come to sell a child, they have an air I was not prepared for. I can hardly say an air of respectability, a word in use with us which is absolutely without meaning in Japan, but an air of unconscious and good-natured simplicity. They are only doing a thing that is perfectly admissible in their world, and really, it all resembles more than I could have thought possible a bona fide marriage. She is very young, I say, and then she is too white, too much like our own women. I wish for one with an ivory skin, just as a change. That is only the paint they have put upon her, monsieur. Beneath it, I assure you, she is of an ivory hue. Look over there, brother, in that corner by the last panel. Have you noticed the one who is sitting down? In my annoyance, I had not observed her. She had her back to the light, was dressed in dark colors, and sat in the careless attitude of one who keeps in the background. The fact is, this one pleased me much better. Eyes with long lashes, rather narrow, but which would have been called good in any country in the world, with almost an expression, almost a thought, a coppery tint on her rounded cheeks, a straight nose, slightly thick lips, but well molded and with pretty corners. A little older than Mademoiselle Jasmine, about 18 years of age perhaps, already more of a woman. She wore an expression of ennui, also of a little contempt, as if she regretted her attendance at a spectacle which dragged so much and was so little amusing. Monsieur Kongoro, who is that young lady over there? In dark blue. Over there, monsieur? She is called Mademoiselle Chrysanthemum. Pierre Loti, 1887, Madame Chrysanthemum. The Yandere, one of the anime community's most common and absolutely divisive character archetypes to date. Oh, and just to get it out of the way, let's just go through a quick dictionary.com summary just for those in the back who don't know what a yandere is somehow. A yandere is a portmanteau of 2 Japanese words. The first is yanderu, which means to be sick, and the second is dere dere, which basically means love struck. A yandere is often characterized as being sweet, caring, and innocent, before switching it all up to display inhuman acts of extreme, violent, and/or psychotic levels of devotion and violence towards a love interest. Also, such behavior typically ends in bloodshed, hurtled towards rival love interests. Now, many older anime fans loved the archetype, myself included for a time, because it was something new and fresh, especially during, the olden days, which was a time characterized by most people only really being able to watch the bog standard slice of life, over-the-top shonen, or just smelly blood, cute girls doing cute girls type stuff. That's literally all we talked about back then. Actually, it's kind of all we still do talk about, but that's a different topic. The juxtaposition between a cute anime girl committing enough war crimes to make a real-life world country blush, now that was new and exciting compared to literally everything else. Which is why, in hindsight, we got a bunch of trash tier anime like Mirai Nikki and School Days being some of the most talked about shows of the era. Now, newer anime fans, on the other hand, have grown up watching animes like this and are now existing in a post-Mirai Nikki school days boom. And from what I've seen, they just don't seem to find the archetype as appealing anymore. Often cite how most of the characters of this trope just boil down to the same repeated one-trick pony shows that rely on pure shock value and sex appeal, basically calling them shitty B-movie horror knockoffs. Which, I mean, they aren't wrong in that connection. I mean, I literally just got done telling you about how the reason why it became popular in the first place because it was so new and refreshing to see over-the-top dramatic stuff in a violent and cute way. And just like B-movie horror villains, oh boy, do people with literally zero background in psychology like to psychoanalyze these characters till the cows come home. You know, if said cow is a malformed anime girl who likes to stab instead of, you know, moo, but you know, same thing. And honestly, I blame every single mediocre mangaka trying to make the next Yuno Gasai and justifying their poor writing by giving their yanderes hilariously unsympathetic and over-the-top traumatic backstories that literally no one could even relate to. Like, say what you want about Mirai Nikki, but like Yuno Gasai is still considered like an anime cultural touchstone for a reason. Oh, and you know, there is also a certain infamous in development game that a lot of newer anime fans have kind of grown up with that kind of has also tarnished the trope's reputation, but that's not the point of this video, so I'm staying far away from that. The real point of this video is me discussing this dual nature that the yandere currently holds in our little wee pop culture corner of the internet. Oh, and discuss the implications of the internet's old obsession of trying to sexualize, demonize, and psychoanalyze unhinged mid-tier waifus using pseudo-psychological nonsense. Well, now that my totally real intellectual psychological nonsense is out of the way, no cute and quirky segue. Let's get right into it. Unless that did count as a cute and quirky segue. Many theorize that the yandere trope as a whole is a response to the Japanese concept of the Yamato Nadeshiko. Now, if you're like me and you've unfortunately been hanging around weeb circles your whole life, you've probably heard the name before and you kind of know the vibe of it, but you don't exactly know what it is. The Yamato Nadeshiko is characterized as the idealized traditional Japanese beauty. So think those prim and proper girls with long black hair, they're meek and demure, and all their hobbies are just so coincidentally only traditional Japanese pastimes like flower arranging and tea making. They're trad wives, basically. They're just trad wives. Many people point to the French novel Madame Chrysanthemum, which is the excerpt I read at the beginning of this video, as kind of the nexus point for the trope. You and I probably know Madame Chrysanthemum better as, you know, one of the most famous plays in the world, Madame Butterfly. And considering what I read to you in the beginning of the video, I'm sure you guys are kind of getting to the point. The women in the beginning of the novel are basically ranked by our hero on how traditionally beautiful and Japanese they are. Because, you know, he can't have his authentic Japanese for real waifu not fit his uber duper kawaii Japanese aesthetic. But pushing that cringe I just spouted aside, Madame Chrysanthemum herself clearly also holds some darkness within her. Now, when I think of a Yamato Nadeshiko with a darkness underneath, I think Yukiko Amagi from Persona 4 in her character arc. Yukiko starts off being the poster child for the Yamato Nadeshiko. She comes from a very traditional and well-established family, she is very classically beautiful, and she seems very prim, smart, and demure, but that pretty quickly fades away once it's revealed that she actually feels trapped by this tradition, hence the totally not in your face symbolism about her shadow boss fight.
No! How dare you! You're not me!
And you know, once all of that's out of the way, everyone starts to rapidly realize she is simultaneously one of the goofiest and most hardcore mother effers to grace the Persona franchise. Like, girly is ready to slay in every definition of the word. Which in hindsight is kind of funny, considering that there's this old Persona fandom rumor about her being the OG antagonist for Persona 4, which also kinda ties into the whole yandere thing. Alright, back to the topic at hand, I guess. So, Japanese authors wanted to subvert this pervasive and archaic stereotype, well, because it's boring, and also, like, come on, and they kind of found a simple, ingenious way to do it. What if all that darkness that hides underneath the Yamato Nadeshiko's subdued facade suddenly burst into the forefront in the most violent, bloody, and unholy way possible. All while, being aesthetic. Now that we have the whole background out of the way, let's actually get into yanderes and how they first started getting into popular consciousness. The original point of the video. Now, like most things in anime, the concept of the yandere is actually linked to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. God, I swear, whenever I look up anything fandom related, it's either JoJo, Clamp, or the godmother of all fandom, Star Trek, like nothing else. But no, seriously, it's like a fandom rule I came up with. When in doubt, blame whatever fandom nonsense you see on one of those three, and like there's a 90% chance you'll be right somehow. That tangent aside, yes, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is often accredited with the origin of the modern day yandere, with the advent of everyone's favorite short king enthusiast, Yukako Yamagishi from Diamond is Unbreakable, which, just looking at her, she checks every box. She has the long black hair, she's beautiful and statuesque to an unsettling degree, and then, 3 seconds later it's revealed that she is a violent stalker who really likes Koichi. Almost called him Kokichi. Wrong short king. Timeline-wise, she also fits the bill, as Diamond is Unbreakable came out in the 90s, and Iroxley famously based Yukako off of, how he felt being married. When I drew Yukako, I had been married for about 2 years. I might get in trouble for saying this, ha 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 ha, but I think my experience being married was reflected in my work. Instead of drawing women just for the sake of it, I started trying to draw the other side of women that you don't usually get to see. I think getting married and having a family has added a lot to the depth of my work. Araki, Quick Japan, 2007. In his own little Araki way, his statement actually ties back into the Yamato Nadeshiko's concept of being the idealized feminine Japanese bride. Well versed the reality of it all. Also, dude totally spent the night on the couch after that interview. I personally attribute the birth of the modern yandere to the iconic Mariko Shinobu from 1970s girls love classic Onesama-e by the Ikeda Ryoko, who, just the author of Rose of Versailles, just a little indie work, And let me be clear, Mariko is the blueprint. While she does not have the hallmark, like, I am going to absolutely, slay all of the competition away from my love interest, she is a over-the-top campy stalker. She does have a switchblade, which does become a yandere staple further down the line, but will absolutely shank you if you look at her funny. Also, she is the birth of this iconic reaction image, so we do stand here. So, I'm sure you've noticed, because you're like such a smart viewer, but a recurring trend throughout this video and throughout the works I've cited is the discussion of mental health. More specifically, how yanderes become mentally ill because of their love for the protagonists. Which, I get that's a trope as old as dirt, see like literally any Shakespeare play ever. If you were around the internet in the late 2000s, early 2010s, you definitely saw the trend of Western writers and fandom types attempting to diagnose these characters with real-life mental disorders, like a weeb version of those shitty true crime podcasts almost. Now, this isn't inherently completely bad and can be relatively harmless, but when you get to the myriad of articles pretending to be mental health professionals and trying to genuinely diagnose these characters and also demonizing real people with these disorders through the guise of talking about anime characters, it got to be a lot. Especially because a lot of those articles just boil down to the old chestnut of, oh, character is evil and crazy because they have a mental disorder. Like, how all people in real life with mental disorders are just as crazy and evil. Which, I don't think I need to tell you how boring, stupid, and just outright wrong that old argument is. And many of the articles that I read on the subject claim that yanderes had something called obsessive love disorder, or OLD. What a great acronym, because it's how it makes me feel. So let's talk about OLD real quick. Obsessive love disorder is a psychological condition that presents as an overwhelming, obsessive desire to protect and possess another person. Often, an inability to accept rejection further contributes to any unhealthy relationships. So sorry for leading you on like that, but just like those articles, the wiki page I just quoted from was complete pop psychology snake oil bullshit. Old is not a real disorder, like at all. Just a quick Google or Firefox or Opera GX or whatever the hell the kids use these days, it shows that this disorder very much does not exist in the DSM. For those unaware, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, or DSM, is like the psychology Bible. It has a list of all currently legitimate and recognized mental health disorders with criteria for the disorder, detailed sections about the subtypes of disorders, and just like kind of everything to do with diagnosing someone. Just a disclaimer, the DSM is not the end-all be-all of psychology, but it is a great tool that real mental health professionals, such as myself, have used in the past when discussing mental health disorders amongst fellow professionals, with clients, or just in general academic settings. As I just alluded to, as someone with a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology and is currently in grad school to become a therapist, I know this damned book back to front. And guess what? The disorder not only does not exist in the damn book, there's a disorder that kinda, quote unquote, is similar to old. There is a schizotypal disorder that colloquially is called a personality disorder that many people have probably heard of called delusional disorder. And a subtype of that disorder is called erotomanic type delusion disorder. So this is essentially a delusion that another person, usually of a higher status, is in love with a singular individual. Think K-poppies on Twitter, or if you're a delusional Tumblr era child like me, those 1D'ers. Is that what they were called? I forget. It's like that, but on a scary level. Now back to the main topic. This essentially means that this disorder is, well, yes, fake, but also people saying it was real were too lazy to find the actual disorder that fits the description of what a yandere is. But if you're gonna go and tell lies and spread weird little mental health rumors on the internet, you should at least make it fun for me to debunk. Like, come on now. It's just kind of tacky for you not, you know? But this does also lead into another topic I wanted to discuss, and that is the whole sex podification of mentally ill women. And don't get me wrong, this isn't new. The yandere did not cause this trope. It's more of just the anime equivalent of it, because the whole sexually promiscuous woman who's a little cuckoo bananas is one of the oldest tropes put to media, really. Hell, just look at everyone's latest punching bag, The Idol, by Sam Levinson. The show is considered so controversial because it sells itself as being some artistic masterpiece that isn't afraid to go there, wherever the hell there is. It's just sexy torture. And also, one of its opening lines is literally, "Mental illness is sexy."
I just don't think that with everything that she has been through, she should be wearing a hospital wristband.
Mental illness is sexy.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that just kind of shows your hand right there, huh? Also, the show is just predictable and boring by all accounts, which, you know, which some may say is a far greater sin than being weird and exploitative, which also ties directly back to the whole birth of the yandere being a subversion of the whole boring and weird repression of femininity thing I talked about earlier. And also, come on, Hollywood producers and mangaka alike, you gotta pick one. You cannot be boring and exploitative. Though boringly exploitative does roll off the tongue rather naturally. I will give you that. Oh, and just because I spent a lot of time talking about the negative associations of the yandere, that doesn't mean I dislike it or think you're a sick little freak if you like it. You're a sick little freak for a host of other reasons that we can't talk about here. Because in all honesty, that would be stupid. And the trope overall, when it's not being used as a tool to tap into real psychological issues, I think it's just dumb fun. Like, come on, characters like Yuno Gasai and Homura from Madoka Magica are iconic for a reason. Just watching them absolutely destroy people's lives and the universe around them while they just look is immaculate, okay? It's amazing. Aesthetics on point. Also, I would be doing a huge disservice to yanderes as a trope if I did not at least mention the growing trend of male yanderes in like shoujo works, otome games, or weirdly enough, anime boy-themed ASMR videos. Yeah, I just don't. Girls, are you okay? I don't get that one. Also, if you're my age, especially if you're a woman or you were raised by a romance junkie like like me, you 1 bazillion% grew up in a time where a male yandere character was pretty much pivotal to all Western media culture existence. And I am, of course, talking about everyone's favorite waifu, Edward Cullen. And yes, he does count as a yandere, okay? He's moody, he stalks his love interest, he's violent to a fault. He, is in love with Bella so much he wants to just eviscerate her in every possible way. The boy's a yandere. I blame him for all of this. And he is actually a really nice segue to talk about the real psychology behind why I think the trope is still pretty popular to this day. And also why, as I just said, the trope is getting pretty popular amongst women. There are several psychological articles and studies themed around what kind of idealized partner both men and women want versus what they actually want in reality. This article, Proper and Dark Heroes as Dads and Cads, Alternative Mating Strategies in British Romantic Literature by Daniel J. Kruger, Marianne Fisher, and Ian Jobling. Immaculate title, you guys. Immaculate. This article talks about what kind of romance heroes women prefer, and it all basically boiled down to women prefer more dad, or the archetypical daddy. Listen, I had to get it in there once. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry, okay? But I'm also not. I'm not. As a long-term partner, but the CAD, or the bad boy type if you prefer, is for exploration of oneself, both romantically and privately. Which is basically why people like yanderes, because yanderes are violent, sexy, fun, which kind of makes them perfect fodder for exploring the more dark and violent parts of romance and sexuality. It's all kind of cyclical in a way. What first started off as a means to just criticize the Yamato Nadeshiko, the most boring and placid and fetishy of all the waifu baits, turned into its own boring, had waifu bait material, just, with some blood and psychosis mixed in. And then it just evolved again to become some sort of exploration of the dark and sometimes violent aspects of romance and how those themes can be both, terrifying and cathartic. So here's hoping it doesn't all regress back again. See, internet, you can derive real psychological meanings from things like this. You don't have to make things up. It's that easy. So, hi, thank you for watching this video. You should like and subscribe, if you want to or whatever. But real talk, thank you guys for all your love and support. I know you guys have been so patient because this video has taken forever on your end. It's taken forever on my end too, and I want to apologize for that. But for those of you who pop into my live streams and all of that jazz, my summer has been kind of hellish. I've moved 3 or 4 times, and I'm about to move again to go finish up grad school. Sitting down and actually refining my script for this video and sitting down to record it and, God forbid, edit it. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, to say the least, but thank you guys. And also, for all of the people from TikTok, thank you. My TikTok kind of is unexpectedly doing great recently. Over the past 2 months or so, I've gone from basically having 1,000 followers to, as of recording this video, almost 8,000. So, thank you guys for listening to me rambling on and on about all of the gay anime fun facts I have. They had to escape my useless little brain somehow, so I'm glad other people are finding that great. But yeah, that's it. I don't know when the next of these big videos are coming out, mainly because, as I just said, grad school is starting up again. It's my last year of grad school, and I'm pretty much done with classes. So hopefully I'll have more time for longer form videos, or I might do something else. God knows with me. I'm a rambling little mess. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. All right, bye for real. Bye.